I invited my whole family to my graduation, but they all ditched me for my cousin's baby shower. They said, "We already did your kind of thing," and mocked my masters. So I sent them a pic from my new office with the sign they said I'd never earn. I stood in my cap and gown, clutching the little velvet folder that was supposed to hold my master's diploma, staring out at a sea of strangers clapping for someone else's achievement. The auditorium buzzed with laughter and camera flashes, but none of them were for me. Every single seat I'd reserved for my family was empty. I kept checking my phone, waiting for a message that never came. My mom, my dad, my two sisters, my aunt, even my grandmother, all of them had promised to come. They were supposed to drive down that morning. Instead, the last thing I saw was a Facebook post. "Can't wait to meet baby Carter today. Baby shower day family time." I felt my stomach drop. The baby shower. My cousin Kayla's baby shower. It wasn't even her first kid, it was her third. But apparently, that was more important than me being the first person in our family to get a master's degree. When I called my mom, she answered like nothing was wrong. "Oh, honey, we didn't think it was a big deal," she said. "We already did your kind of thing before. You graduated in college, remember? We've seen it." I remember standing outside the auditorium doors, my gown clinging to my arms in the humid June air, listening to her talk about cupcakes and diaper raffles. My ears rang, my chest went tight, and all I could manage was a quiet, "You promised you'd come." She just sighed. "Don't be dramatic. Family's all together today, you should be happy for Kayla." That sentence broke something in me. Because in that moment, I realized I wasn't family when it didn't serve them. I was the quiet achiever, the bookworm, the one they teased for acting better than everyone. They liked it when I stayed small. So I smiled through the ceremony, took photos alone, and accepted a congratulatory hug from my advisor, a man who had known me less than 2 years but showed up more than my own blood. Later that night, I posted one photo from graduation with a short caption. "Did it alone again." My aunt commented, "You could have skipped this and come to Kayla's. Don't hold grudges, sweetie, life's too short." I didn't reply. But I did start planning something. Because I'd just accepted a job offer they all said I'd never get, the one they mocked me for even applying to. The one they said was for people who actually know people. A few months later, I took a photo of myself standing in front of my new office, with the sign they said I'd never earn. Senior Policy Analyst, Department of Education. And that's when the phone calls started. I grew up in a small town outside of Lexington, Kentucky, the kind of place where everyone knows what everyone else is doing before they even finish doing it. My family wasn't rich, but we were loud, opinionated, and tight-knit, at least from the outside. Sunday dinners, holiday barbecues, constant gossip. My mom and her sister, Kayla's mom, were best friends who spent their lives in friendly competition. Except it was never really friendly. When I was a kid, I was the smart one. The one who actually liked school. I'd bring home straight A's and spelling bee ribbons, and my mom would laugh like it was cute but never really proud. "Don't turn into one of those know-it-alls," she'd warn. "Nobody likes a show-off." Meanwhile, Kayla, my cousin, was the fun one. Always skipping class, sneaking out, dating older guys. Somehow, she was the golden child. Every time she got into trouble, my family spun it as Kayla just has a big heart. When she dropped out of high school to have her first baby at 17, they threw her a massive baby shower. I remember watching her open gifts and hearing my aunt say, "She's starting her family young, that's brave." I guess that's when I learned what my family valued. It wasn't achievement. It was chaos wrapped in sentimentality. When I graduated high school, I had one of the highest GPAs in our county. My mom told everyone I was book smart but life dumb. When I went to college, on a full scholarship, she said, "Don't come back thinking you're better than where you came from." I paid my own way through grad school while working full-time. There were nights I didn't sleep at all, crying at my desk, pushing through imposter syndrome and exhaustion. I'd call home sometimes, hoping they'd be proud. My mom's replies were always things like, "You still doing that school thing?" Or "That's nice, but Kayla's pregnant again." When I got my master's acceptance letter, I printed it and showed it to them at a family cookout. My dad had looked at it, squinting like it was written in another language. "So, what's this even for?" he asked. "Aren't you done with school yet?" My grandmother had chuckled. "Some people just don't know when to stop." That's when I made a quiet promise to myself. That one day, I'd stop asking them to be proud. I'd stop trying to earn their approval. But even though I told myself that, I still invited them to my graduation. I still hoped maybe this time they'd show up. Maybe they'd surprise me. Instead, they went to a baby shower for a third child who wouldn't even remember it. And that was the last straw. Because when you spend your whole life being the one nobody cheers for, something inside you hardens. And when I got that job offer, the one they said I'd never get, I knew exactly how I'd use it. After graduation, I stopped calling. Stopped showing up to birthdays, dinners, holidays. For a while, no one really noticed. It's easy to fade out of a family that only calls when they need something. But then the silence started to bother them. My mom texted first, asking if I was mad about something. I ignored it. A week later, she tried again. "Don't be like that. You know we love you, we just had other plans that day." Other plans. Like my life's work could just fit around a balloon arch and pink cupcakes. Meanwhile, I was adjusting to my new job, an analyst position in DC. I'd found an apartment in Arlington, close enough to walk to work. Every morning, I passed by the department's glass building, the one I used to joke about when I was still in grad school. One day I'll have my name on a door in there. And now I did. When I told my family about the offer, they laughed. My dad, "They're really gonna pay you for that, just paperwork." My mom, "It's not like you're saving lives." My aunt, "Kayla just got promoted to assistant manager at Walgreens. That's real work." So yeah, when I took that photo in front of my new office sign, I knew it was going to sting. I waited until my first official day, put on my navy blazer, and stood next to the door plate. Senior Policy Analyst, Education Equity Division. I took a photo, smiling just enough, holding my ID badge up. The caption was simple. "To the people who said I'd never make it out, I did. First day as a Senior Policy Analyst. No baby shower required." It blew up fast. Friends, coworkers, even old classmates commented congratulations. But my family, they were quiet for 2 days, then the calls started. My mom left me a voicemail. "You didn't have to post that. Everyone's talking and you made us look bad." My aunt texted, "That post was petty. We've always supported you, even if you didn't see it." Kayla messaged me directly, her tone dripping with passive aggression. "You don't have to flex your job. Some of us actually have families to raise." I stared at that message for a long time. My thumb hovered over block, but instead I sent her something else. A screenshot of the email my boss had sent that morning, the one congratulating me for being selected to co-lead a federal education policy review. The kind of opportunity that could rewrite my entire career. And all I typed was, "Some of us raise ourselves." That's when things really turned. Suddenly I was the selfish one, the ungrateful one. My mom called crying, saying I was tearing the family apart. My grandmother even mailed me a handwritten letter telling me I was turning cold. Maybe I was. But I was done shrinking. And I didn't realize it yet, but the next time I saw them, at Kayla's birthday barbecue, I'd learned something that would twist everything I thought I knew about why they'd really ditched me. 3 months later, I went back home for the first time since the graduation mess. It was Kayla's birthday barbecue, and my mom begged me to come. "Just come for a few hours," she said. "Let's put all this behind us." Against my better judgment, I went. I told myself I was doing it for closure, not forgiveness. The moment I pulled up, I knew I made a mistake. The backyard was packed, laughter, music, kids running everywhere. Kayla was there in a tight pink dress, showing off her new engagement ring like she'd just won a trophy. My aunt spotted me, and her face dropped for a second before she plastered on a fake smile. "Well, look who finally decided to show up," she said, hugging me like she didn't mean it. The whole family was acting weird quieter when I walked by, glances exchanged behind paper plates. I stayed polite, ate a burger, smiled when necessary. But when I went inside to get a drink, that's when I overheard it. Kayla was in the kitchen talking to my mom. "She actually showed up," Kayla said, her voice dripping with annoyance. My mom sighed. "Yeah, don't make a scene." Then Kayla laughed. "She still doesn't know, does she?" My mom's silence told me everything. "Kayla, You really think she'd have handled it well if she knew why everyone went to my baby's shower instead of her thing? My mom. It doesn't matter now. She's moved on. I stood frozen behind the doorway, heart pounding. I waited until I heard the back door open and close, then I stepped out. I confronted my mom right there in the kitchen. What didn't you tell me? Her face went pale. Honey, it's not. What didn't you tell me? I snapped. She hesitated, then finally said it. Your dad asked us not to come. He said it'd be better if we stayed home that weekend. I just stared. Why would he say that? Her eyes darted toward the floor. Because he didn't want to sit through it. He said it was embarrassing that his daughter went back to school instead of starting a family. He said people would talk, that it looked like we raised you wrong. It felt like the air had been sucked out of the room. I asked quietly, so everyone agreed to skip because he didn't want to go. My mom just whispered, we didn't want to cause tension. It was easier to make up another excuse. That was it. My own family didn't come to the biggest day of my life because my dad thought my education made him look bad, because I didn't fit his idea of what a woman should be. And the worst part? My mom went along with it. I left without saying goodbye. Drove all the way back to DC with my hands shaking the entire time. That night, I sat in my apartment staring at my phone, scrolling through the same people who'd mocked me now posting Bible quotes about family unity. That's when I stopped just being angry. I started thinking, if they were embarrassed by me having an education, what would happen if that education started changing things for them, directly? I had access now, knowledge, contacts, power in ways they couldn't even begin to understand. And for the first time, I thought, maybe I can make them feel the consequences of underestimating me. For a few days after that barbecue, I couldn't focus on anything. Every spreadsheet, every meeting, every policy draft blurred together. I kept hearing my dad's words in my head. It's embarrassing that she went back to school instead of starting a family. It wasn't just an insult. It was confirmation that my own blood thought my success was something to be ashamed of. That's when the anger shifted. It wasn't about revenge for the graduation anymore. It was about respect. I wanted them to see, in undeniable, concrete ways, that the world they dismissed me for chasing was now the same world that could affect theirs. It started small. My division was working on an education grant program that partnered with local school districts. One of them happened to be the district where I grew up. I wasn't in charge of approvals, but I was responsible for data verification and compliance reports. Meaning I saw everything. That's when I noticed something. The district's application had several irregularities. Inflated numbers, outdated equity plans, missing documentation. I flagged it for review like I was supposed to. But I also knew who handled those reports locally. Kayla's mom, my aunt. She worked as an administrative coordinator for the district. Normally, I would have just let the system handle it, but this was different. I went by the book, made sure every step was documented, every error noted, every policy followed. I didn't bend a single rule. When the audit came back, the district lost their eligibility for funding for that cycle, pending correction and resubmission. It wasn't permanent, just procedural, but it was enough to cause chaos. My aunt's department took the hit. I didn't gloat, I didn't post, I didn't call, I just waited. 2 weeks later, I got a voicemail from my mom, furious. What did you do? Your aunt, saying the district lost funding because of some policy change from your office. Everyone's blaming her. You can't just go around ruining people's jobs. I listened to that message 3 times, smiling quietly. I hadn't ruined anything. I'd just done my job correctly, something they'd never expected of me. But I wasn't done. I knew my dad worked part-time for a construction company that had contracts with the same district. Their bids relied on federal compliance scores, the same ones my office tracked. So, I sent out a general update to all regional partners, a reminder about new reporting standards for 2025, including stricter documentation of subcontractor vetting. Again, nothing personal, just policy, but I knew my dad's boss would see it, and I knew my dad's company had been cutting corners for years. A month later, my dad called for the first time in forever. No hi, no how are you? Just. You think you're better than us now, huh? sitting in your fancy office, screwing with honest people. That's when I finally said it. No, Dad, I just finally have a seat at the table. You're the one who taught me to stop asking for one. The silence on the other end was heavy. Then he hung up. I thought that would be the end of it, but it was. Because not long after, I found out something that changed the entire story again. Something that made all of their resentment suddenly make sense, and made my stomach twist with disgust. A few weeks after that call, I got an email from a woman named Claire, who worked in my old hometown's education office. She'd seen my name on some of the recent compliance reports and reached out personally. Her message was short. Hey, not sure if you remember me, I worked under your aunt years ago. Just wanted to say it's great to see someone from our town doing big things. Also, if you ever get a chance, check the subcontractor files for your dad's company. Something about those numbers has always been off. I didn't think much of it at first, but curiosity got the better of me. One night, after everyone had gone home, I pulled up the district's historical data. And that's when I saw it. Over the past 6 years, my dad's company had been listed as a subcontractor on several small school renovation projects: gym floors, HVAC updates, playground installations. On paper, everything looked fine, but the listed materials and labor costs were consistently 15–20% above the regional average. The same projects had approval notes signed by my aunt. It wasn't proof of fraud, but it was damn close. Still, I didn't jump to conclusions. I double-checked old grant submissions, budget summaries, contractor lists, and then, buried in one of the archived PDFs, I found a name: Kayla. She'd been listed as a consultant on one of the 2021 projects. I sat back in my chair, heart pounding. That's when it clicked. The whole family's resentment, their sudden disinterest in my education, their constant mocking of policy jobs and paperwork, they weren't just being dismissive. They were defensive. They knew what I could uncover if I ever looked too closely. And when I thought back to how my dad had supposedly told everyone not to come to my graduation because it would make him look bad, I realized something darker. Maybe it was an embarrassment about me. Maybe he was afraid I'd talk about my new position, or the kind of access I had, in front of people who might ask questions. They hadn't skipped my graduation because they didn't care. They skipped it because they were scared of me, scared I might see through them before they could prepare. I remember sitting there, the office lights humming, my laptop glowing with years of their deceit staring back at me. For the first time in my life, I felt something that wasn't sadness or anger. It was power, cold, controlled power. I could report it anonymously. I could make their lives implode overnight. But I didn't want to be impulsive. I wanted it to mean something. So I started gathering more evidence quietly, pulling every public record, every contract, every payroll stub I could access legally. I printed copies, filed them neatly in a folder, and wrote a single word on the front in black Sharpie: graduation. Because that's what they stole from me, a moment that should have been mine. And if they were going to take that from me, I was going to take the one thing they valued most: their comfort. But before I could act, I got one more piece of information, something that didn't just confirm the corruption. It revealed the reason behind all of it, and it made me sick to my stomach. A week later, Claire called me. Her voice was low, almost whispering, like she didn't want anyone to overhear. "I shouldn't be saying this," she started, "but you need to know what was really going on with those contracts." She told me that a few years back, right before I started grad school, the district had quietly approved a series of emergency repair projects. The bids were rushed through without full oversight, mostly because my aunt had vouched for the contractors. My dad's company handled most of the work. It sounded like typical small-town favoritism until Claire said the next part. They weren't just overcharging, she said. They were ghost billing, claiming hours for workers who didn't exist. My skin went cold. Then she paused. "And there's more. One of the fake names on those forms, it's yours." I didn't speak. I just stared at the phone. Apparently, my dad and aunt had used my name, my social security number, on multiple project invoices, claiming I'd been hired for clerical support while I was still in college. They'd been cashing checks under my name for years. And when I started applying for grad school loans, they panicked, realizing someone might dig into my financial records. That's why my dad didn't want me talking about my degree. That's why he told everyone to skip my graduation. That's why they mocked me for working in policy, because they knew what kind of access that gave me. If I looked too closely, I could have uncovered their scam by accident. Claire sent me copies of the old invoices. There it was, right in black and white. Clerical Services M. Collins. My own name, forged signature and all. I couldn't breathe. My hands went numb. I thought back to every time my mom had told me to just focus on school, every time my dad brushed off my questions about his work. Every dismissal, every guilt trip, it was all part of keeping me quiet. They hadn't just betrayed me emotionally. They'd used me, my identity, my education, my trust, and the worst part, they'd done it without hesitation. Because to them, I was never a person, just another resource, another tool to make their lives easier. That night, I sat in my apartment staring at the stack of documents in front of me, proof of everything. Years of deception, all tied neatly together. I wanted to scream. I wanted to drive back home and throw it in their faces. But then I remembered something my professor once said. Real justice doesn't always come from emotion. Sometimes it comes from precision. So I made a decision. I wasn't going to confront them, not yet. I was going to build something they couldn't talk their way out of, something official, legal, permanent. And when it landed, they'd know exactly who had sent it, even if my name wasn't on the report. It took 3 weeks to prepare everything. Every document, every invoice, every signature. I filed an anonymous report through the department's Office of Inspector General. I used my work ID to verify the submission, but checked the box that hid my personal details from the public record. Then, I waited. 2 months later, the investigation went public. Local news covered it like wildfire. District officials under review for financial misconduct. My aunt's name was right there in the second paragraph. My dad's company was listed as a contractor of interest. It wasn't just about the money, it was the forged employment records. One of the investigators said they opened a separate case for potential identity misuse. That phrase made me smile in a way I didn't think I still could. My mom called 3 days later. Her voice was shaking. They came to the house, she said. They took Dad's files. They're saying your aunt might lose her job. Please tell me you didn't have anything to do with this. For a second, I almost told her the truth. But then I remembered standing outside my graduation hall, staring at those empty seats. I remembered her voice on the phone, telling me to be happy for Kayla. So I just said calmly, I don't know what you're talking about, Mom. I've been really busy at work. She broke down crying, saying, You're tearing this family apart. And I said, No, Mom. You all did that a long time ago. I'm just making it official. The fallout was brutal. My aunt was put on administrative leave pending investigation. My dad's company lost its district contracts. Kayla deleted her social media for a while, maybe, because people started asking why her name was on the invoices, too. The silence that followed was the loudest peace I'd ever known. I didn't post anything. I didn't brag. But one afternoon, I did something small, something for me. I went back to that same office door, the one with my nameplate, Senior Policy Analyst, Education Equity Division. I took another photo, same pose, same smile. Only this time, I printed it and mailed it to my parents' house. No note, no caption, just the photo. A few days later, my mom texted, We got your picture. You look so grown. That was the closest thing to an apology I ever got. Now, when I think about that graduation day, those empty seats, the ache in my chest, I realize something. I didn't need them to witness my success. Their absence gave me something better, clarity. They taught me exactly how small people act when they're afraid of someone becoming bigger than the box they built for her. And honestly, that's the degree that matters most. Final line. They missed my graduation, but I made sure they still got a lesson, this time with real consequences.